What if I told you that the majority of people alive today are not truly living, but quietly surrendering to defeat? And it's not because they lack talent, intelligence, or opportunities, because they lack inner strength, the mental discipline required to face life head. Look around. We scroll endlessly through feeds, comparing our behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. We envy what others show, while ignoring the struggles they hide. And then we sit in confusion, wondering why we feel weak, lost, or stuck in the same cycle. We run toward comfort at every chance, but instead of feeling recharged, we're drained, restless, and exhausted. We run from pain at every turn, but in avoiding it, we create a deeper suffering that follows us every single day. The hard truth is this: comfort is not healing us, it is quietly killing us. Every soft cushion, every distraction, every avoidance of difficulty chips away at our resilience. On the other hand, struggle, though bitter and harsh, carries the seed of transformation. Struggle is the forge where real strength, real clarity, and real freedom are born. And here's the twist: is not some modern discovery. Long before social media, before smartphones, before motivational books and productivity gurus, the ancient Stoics already knew this truth. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who carried the weight of an empire while fighting wars and personal tragedy, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's not just a quote to share online, that's a weapon. It's a philosophy of survival, a way of standing unshaken while chaos rages around you. Stoicism never promised ease. It promised something far greater: unshakeable resilience, a spirit that cannot be broken. In this video, we are diving into 8 brutal Stoic laws. Not sugar-coated inspiration, not vague, feel-good advice. These are principles hammered out in the fires of war, betrayal, poverty, and loss laws that forced men and women to level up mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Each law is as relevant today as it was 2,000 years ago, maybe even more so, because our modern world has mastered the art of softening us. But before we begin, I need you to understand something. This isn't entertainment. This isn't background noise while you scroll. This is your call to arms. If you are serious about growth, pause. Like this video right now. Leave a comment every time a truth hits you deep. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And most importantly, to going all the way through. Because even skipping one law could mean missing the exact principle you'll need in a moment that could define your life. So, let's begin. Law. #1. Embrace discomfort like a friend. We've been programmed to believe pain is an enemy. That the highest goal in life is comfort. But the Stoics taught the opposite: seek out discomfort, lean into it, even welcome it as an ally. Ask yourself honestly, when did you grow the most? Was it when life was easy, when everything was predictable, when you were comfortable? Or was it when life hit you hard, when you were betrayed, rejected, broken, or exhausted and you had to decide, rise, or stay shattered? Marcus Aurelius himself endured betrayal, wars, illness, and the unbearable weight of leading Rome. Yet he wrote calmly, The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. That's not poetry, that's law. Every obstacle is a chance to sharpen your will. Every rejection is a teacher of resilience. Every delay is training your patience. Life does not weaken you, it reveals to you whether you are prepared or not. Modern society says, avoid pain, avoid struggle, but Stoicism whispers back, train for it. That cold shower you resist, that's training. That hard conversation you've been avoiding, that's a battlefield. That workout when you're exhausted, that's where character is forged. The Stoics believed that by practicing small, controlled discomfort, you become unshakable when life throws chaos at you. Seneca, another great Stoic, used to sleep on the floor, wear rough clothing, eat the simplest food, not because he hated himself, but because he wanted to master fear, so that when fortune stripped away his comforts, he would remain free, not broken. Here's the truth. Discomfort is not your enemy. Discomfort is a mirror. It reveals who you really are, and even more who you're becoming. If you run from every small pain today, you will face larger pain tomorrow. But if you face it willingly, you strip it of its power. Something powerful happens when you stop fearing pain. You begin to experience freedom. So from this moment on, see discomfort as your sparring partner. It may bruise you, but it's shaping you. Choose one small discomfort every day. Take the cold shower. Sit in silence with boredom. Push through that last set in the gym. Have the honest conversation. Remind yourself, this is how warriors are built. The only way to be unstoppable is to stop running. Drop this affirmation in the comments right now. Discomfort is my training ground. Law number 2. Stop being owned by your emotions. Now, let's be honest. How often do your emotions control you? Someone insults you and you explode. Plans fall apart, and suddenly your mood is ruined. You feel lazy, and so you skip the very thing that would make you stronger, the work, the workout, the discipline. And it's not just you, it's the human condition. But the brutal truth is this: if your emotions own you, you are not free. You are their slave. And the Stoics believed that this slavery was more dangerous than any chain or prison. Epictetus, who was literally born into slavery and later became one of the greatest Stoic teachers, said, "Any person capable of angering you becomes your master. They can anger you only when you permit yourself to be disturbed by them." Let that sink in. The stranger who cuts you off in traffic, you just gave them your peace. The breakup, you gave it your identity. That rude comment online, you gave it your joy. Stoicism doesn't tell you to suppress emotions. It tells you to master them, to notice them rising, to understand them, and then to respond with clarity instead of reacting blindly. That's the difference between a child and a Stoic. A child throws tantrums. A Stoic sits in the storm and thinks. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor himself, reminded us, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. That is the kind of control you must claim, the kind that no insult, no failure, no chaos can ever take from you. We rarely stop to consider the incredible power of being unmoved by things that do not deserve our energy. And yes, this power is brutal because it strips away your excuses. Once you embrace it, you can no longer say, "He made me angry," or "She ruined my day." You are forced to face the truth. It wasn't them, it was you. The trigger came from outside, but the reaction, that was your choice. Now, here's the liberating part. Since it was your choice, you can choose again. You don't have to remain a prisoner of your feelings. You can experience anger without lashing out. You can feel fear, yet still move forward with courage. You can sit in sadness without letting it consume your entire being. That is emotional strength. That is Stoic freedom. Here's a practical exercise. The next time you feel triggered, pause. Don't act immediately. Just breathe. Ask yourself, is this emotion useful right now? This small moment of reflection creates a gap between stimulus and response. And in that gap lies your power. This isn't about becoming cold or robotic, about becoming steady, intentional, and unshakable. When you stop being owned by your emotions, clarity replaces confusion. Calmness replaces chaos. Strength replaces weakness. People notice it. They see someone who is not tossed around by every insult, every setback, every inconvenience. You become a steady presence in a world of emotional storms. And in today's society, where volatility and outrage are the norm, that kind of stability is rare. It is magnetic. It is unstoppable. Real growth begins when you stop being a puppet pulled by strings of emotion and instead rise as the master holding the strings. Law number 3. Stop expecting fairness. Life owes you nothing. One of the quickest paths to disappointment is the belief that life is supposed to be fair. Sit with that for a moment. How many times have you thought, but that's not fair? You work harder than others, but someone else gets the promotion. You love deeply, but the person you love walks away. You do the right thing, yet you still get punished. And then the anger rises. This isn't fair. But here's the hard Stoic truth. Fairness is not a law of the universe. It is a story we invent. Marcus Aurelius himself, Emperor of Rome, wrote, "You can commit injustice by doing nothing." Even he, the most powerful man on earth, lived surrounded by corruption, betrayal, and cruelty. And yet he did not waste energy demanding fairness. He did not collapse into bitterness. He anchored himself in one clear principle. Life is not about fairness, it is about strength. The Stoics never expected life to treat them kindly. They expected loss, pain, betrayal, and sudden change. And because they expected it, they were never surprised when it came. They were ready. That is the difference between weakness and wisdom. Let's be honest, clinging to fairness often makes us fragile. When we say, "This isn't fair," what we usually mean is, "I don't like this, and I don't want to face it." But the law is simple. You don't grow by demanding fairness. You grow by facing reality as it is and moving forward anyway. Look around, bad things happen to good people. Sometimes the corrupt rise and the virtuous suffer. Sometimes effort is not rewarded. This is not pessimism, is life. So what separates the average person from the unstoppable Stoic? The average person waits for fairness. The Stoic builds a strength so unshakable that no injustice can destroy them. This doesn't mean becoming cold or heartless. It means refusing to let the world dictate your dignity. It means choosing to live with honor even when dishonor surrounds you. Seneca put it powerfully. Sometimes even to live is an act of courage, especially when life feels unfair. So what do? Instead of wasting energy complaining, you use the pain as fuel. You sharpen your skills until they cannot be ignored. You give love freely, but without demanding guarantees in return. You endure betrayal and still walk forward with your head held high. The Stoic path is radical responsibility, not because everything is your fault, but because it's always your move. You cannot control what life throws at you, but you can always control your response. And it is that response, the calm, grounded, warrior-like response, that makes you unstoppable. Fairness is not promised, but freedom is earned, one powerful choice at a time. Law number 4. Focus only on what you can control. Release the rest. The Stoics believed that real power lives in one very small, very specific space, the space of what is truly under your control. Everything outside that space, let it go. Epictetus, who knew suffering more than most, put it simply: make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens. Most people suffer because they live backwards. They obsess over things they cannot touch. They try to control other people's opinions. They try to predict the future. They cling to outcomes. And then they wonder why they feel anxious, powerless, and frustrated. But let's break it down. What is actually under your control? Your thoughts, your actions, your choices, your response. Everything else, the weather, the economy, other people's opinions, the past, the future, is outside your control. You can't control the storm, but you can control how you navigate your ship. You can't control whether people respect you, but you can control whether you live with integrity. You can't control whether opportunities appear, but you can control how prepared you are when they do. This shift in focus is life-changing. It gives you back your strength. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Think about that. When you shift your energy away from things you cannot change and invest it in things you can, you become grounded while others are scattered. You become calm while others panic. You become disciplined while others drift aimlessly. Imagine being at sea in the middle of a storm. The average person curses the wind and screams at the waves. The Stoic doesn't waste time doing that. The Stoic grabs the wheel and focuses only on steering. That's why they survive the storm when others drown. Here's a simple practice. Every time you feel stressed, ask, "Is this within my control?" If the answer is yes, act. If the answer is no, let go. Simple. Yes, easy. No, powerful. Absolutely, when you begin living this way, something shifts. People notice. You are no longer thrown off balance by the uncontrollable. You stand unshakable. Not because you control the world, but because you control yourself. Law number 5. Practice voluntary hardship to build unbreakable will in a world addicted to comfort. discipline becomes a superpower. Everywhere we look, people are chasing ease, luxury, and convenience. But the Stoics knew that if you rely on comfort, life will eventually break you. That's why they didn't wait for hardship to arrive. They went out and met it on purpose. Not out of self-punishment, but out of preparation. Not to suffer needlessly, but to strengthen the mind so it could not be shaken. Seneca. One of the great Stoics once advised, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition I feared?'" This was not poverty forced upon him, was poverty chosen, voluntary hardship. By practicing moments of discomfort, he trained his mind not to fear the worst. So when real difficulty arrived, he was already ready. Now look at the modern world. Most people today avoid discomfort at all costs. They never skip a meal. They never walk away from convenience. They never sit in silence without distraction. But what happens when life strips their comforts away? They panic, they break, they point fingers and collapse under the weight of circumstances. The Stoic is different. The Stoic has already practiced hunger, already sat in silence, already endured boredom, rejection, fatigue, and loss. That doesn't make them invincible, but it makes them adaptable. And adaptability is what makes you unbreakable. Understand this. You don't build willpower by watching motivational videos. You build it by doing the thing you don't want to. Do on purpose. Voluntary hardship might look like this: fasting for 24 hours to prove to yourself you control your urges. Taking a cold shower when every cell in your body resists. Refusing a luxury you can afford just to sharpen your self-restraint. Waking up before dawn to train when the bed calls your name. These small, daily acts of chosen discomfort add up. And over time, they forge a person who is dangerous not because they are cruel to themselves, but because they know the truth. Comfort doesn't make you stronger. Challenge does. And when life finally throws real hardship at you, you don't cower, you smile, because you've already walked the fire by choice. Marcus Aurelius ruled through plagues, betrayals, and wars, yet his writings remain calm, measured, and clear. Why? Because hardship never shocked him. He expected it. And when you expect difficulty, it cannot paralyze you. So stop asking, "How can I make life easier?" and start asking, "How can I make myself stronger?" Practice being hungry. Practice being alone. Practice being cold, tired, bored, rejected, and staying calm, focused, and determined through it all. Because one day, life will test you harder than you ever imagined, and when it does, you'll rise. Law number 6. Detach from outcomes. Fall in love with the process. From childhood, we are taught to obsess over results. Get the job, win the competition, earn the money, gain the admiration, collect the trophy. But Stoicism flips this script entirely. Stop obsessing over the outcome. Fall in love with the process. Why? Because results are never guaranteed. The effort is yours, but the outcome belongs to fate. Epictetus said it clearly. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Outcomes are beyond your control. But your effort, your discipline, your choices, those belong to you completely. Think about how most people live. They hit the gym for a week, don't see abs, and quit. They launch a project, it flops, and they feel worthless. They give their heart to someone, that person leaves, and they collapse. Why? Because their worth was tied to results they could not control. But imagine a different way. Imagine falling in love with the work itself, the showing up, the training, the learning, the writing, the building. That is the Stoic way. Because when your joy comes from the process, you cannot lose, even if the outcome isn't what you dreamed. You've already won because you showed up with discipline and intention. And here's the paradox. When you stop being desperate for the outcome, you often achieve more. Why? Because desperation clouds judgment. Neediness breeds weakness. But when you are grounded in process, your work becomes pure, steady, and powerful. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it if you have." 2. With the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. That is Stoic wisdom. Stop living in the anxiety of what might happen. Instead, give your best effort today, right now. If you're a writer, write not to go viral, but to sharpen your thoughts. If you're an athlete, train not just to win medals, but to master your body. If you're building something, build not for applause, but for the pride of creating. The moment you tie your worth to outcomes, you become fragile. But when you tie it to discipline, focus, and intentional action, you become unstoppable. Here's the Stoic shift. Show up like the result is already guaranteed, and you're simply enjoying the craft. Fail, succeed. Bonus, you've already won because you did the work. Law number 7. Embrace death. Live with urgency and purpose. Most people live as if they are going to live forever. They delay their dreams. They waste their time. They tolerate toxic habits and relationships. They act like tomorrow is guaranteed. But the Stoics knew a truth that most of us avoid. Death is near, and it could come at any moment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." This is not meant to depress. You is meant to wake you up, to remind you that life is not infinite, that every moment wasted is a moment you will never get back. Let that hit you. You don't get to wait for someday. You don't get unlimited time to finally become who you want to be. You don't have an infinite supply of days to love, to create, to grow, to live fully. The clock is ticking. The Stoics practiced memento mori, meditation on mortality. Not to live in fear, but to live in urgency. To cut away the trivial. To focus only on what matters. Because once you realize that death could come at any time, procrastination dies. Petty grudges lose their power. Fear of judgment evaporates. Think of it this way. If today were your last day, would you still waste it scrolling endlessly? Would you still avoid saying the words you've been holding back? Would you still delay the dream you've been to? Afraid to start? The Stoic says no. You live with urgency. You live with purpose. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. The problem is not length of life, is the squandering of life. And that is why meditating on death is not morbid, it is freeing. It pulls you back to what matters: love, courage, discipline, creation, virtue. So from this moment on, carry this reminder: you could leave life at any moment. Don't delay the things that matter. Don't keep waiting for the perfect time. Live now, because the perfect time may never come. And when death comes, you will not regret a life of urgency. You will regret a life wasted. "I'll do it later." That phrase has ruined more lives than failure ever did. You don't get to assume that tomorrow is guaranteed. You don't own tomorrow. The Stoics practiced something called memento mori. Remember, you will die. Not as a morbid reminder, not to scare you, but to wake you up. To remind you to stay focused, present, and intentional. Because once you truly accept that your time is limited, your perspective shifts completely. You stop wasting it on things that don't matter. You stop scrolling for hours as if your life is infinite. You stop arguing over meaningless nonsense. You stop tolerating mediocrity. Instead, you begin creating, loving, moving, living now, not later. Seneca said it best: "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Think about that. Life is not short. It only feels short because we waste most of it. You might not control how long you live, but you absolutely control how deeply you live. And yet, the most dangerous lie we keep telling ourselves is this: there's plenty of time. No, there isn't. That risk you keep avoiding, that business you keep postponing, that apology you keep withholding, that person you keep meaning to forgive, that change you keep saying you'll make next year. It all depends on a tomorrow that may never come. This is your moment. This is your time. The Stoic doesn't ignore death. He doesn't run from it. He stares it in the face and says, "You will not catch me sleeping on my life." That awareness doesn't make you anxious. It makes you alive, because the one who remembers death learns how to live. They speak truthfully. They love openly. They work with urgency. They let go of ego. They stop fearing failure, because the ultimate failure isn't embarrassment. It isn't rejection. It's a wasted life. Live like you are on borrowed time, because you are. And when you do, something changes in you. You become magnetic, focused, powerful. You stop chasing cheap validation. You start moving with purpose. People feel it. You feel it. Number 8. Be a warrior for virtue, not approval. Let's be brutally honest. Most people live for likes, praise, attention, applause. But the Stoic doesn't live for the crowd. The Stoic lives for virtue. Marcus Aurelius said, "Just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter." Meaning, live with honor even if no one notices. Speak the truth even if no one claps. Keep your word even if it costs you. Train hard even when nobody's watching. That is virtue. That is what builds a soul. That cannot be bought. And here's the truth. Doing the right thing is often the hard thing. It's easier to lie than to be honest. It's easier to impress than to be authentic. It's easier to chase approval than to stand alone. But every time you choose what's right over what's easy, you sharpen your edge. You become someone your future self will admire. You build an identity that no one can take from you. Seneca once reminded us, "I will govern my life and thoughts," as if the whole world were to see the one and read the other. That's power. That's a life that doesn't crumble under pressure, because it's built on integrity. In a world obsessed with image, the Stoic chooses to be real. In a world filled with noise, the Stoic chooses stillness. In a world of performance, the Stoic chooses authenticity. You want to be unstoppable? Then stop living for praise. Live for your values. Live in such a way that even if stripped of status, money, or followers, you'd still stand tall. Because the moment you stop needing the crowd, you become the kind of person they follow anyway. Be the warrior for what is right, not what is popular. And even if you walk alone, walk like it's the only path that matters. If you've made it this far, it means something inside you is ready to evolve. To leave behind the distractions, the weakness, the emotional chaos, and step into something greater. Not perfection, but power. Not domination over others, but mastery over yourself. That is the Stoic path. It doesn't offer you comfort. It offers you clarity. It doesn't promise you ease. It gives you direction. It gives you a life of meaning, even when the world around you is crumbling. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, they didn't write for a world of comfort. They wrote to survive storms, betrayals, battles, and even death itself with dignity. They showed us that true strength isn't in muscles or money. It's in the man who keeps his word. It's in the woman who faces fear without flinching. It's in the soul that does the right thing, especially when it's the hard thing. You don't need to wait for motivation. You don't need the perfect moment. You only need to begin right now. Train your mind. Expect struggle. Detach from outcomes. Hold fast to your principles. Live like your time is running out, because it is. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need applause. You don't need recognition. You don't need anyone to understand you. Because when you walk the Stoic path, you become unshakable from within. And that kind of strength, it's rare, it's real, and it's yours. So drop this affirmation in the comments. I am becoming unshakable day by day. If this message spoke to you, don't just keep it to yourself. Like the video, comment your favorite lesson, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to the channel. We're building a community, not of noise, but of thinkers, warriors, and real ones who choose purpose over distraction. And remember, do not skip any part of your life. It's all training. It's all transformation. Keep showing up. Keep choosing strength. And don't stop until you become unstoppable.